All right, so New Year's Eve is almost here, and we all know what that means.
Fireworks.
Yeah.
And I'm already picturing it now. Those bright bursts of color against the night sky. And I am determined this year to get some really good pictures of them. Better than ever before, that's why. We're diving into a book called How to Photograph Fireworks. It's the complete Bible of firework photography. It has a ton of great tips. And get this, it's on sale right now for only 99 cents.
What a deal.
I know, right? Talk about a steal. It's a great resource.
It is, especially if you want to go beyond, just pointing and shooting. It even gets into the science behind fireworks, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking through it earlier, and there's a whole section on how different chemical elements create those amazing colors.
Yeah.
Like strontium makes red, barium makes green, copper makes blue. It's amazing.
It's like a chemistry lesson.
Yeah.
And an art class, all in one.
Exactly. And once you understand that connection between the elements and the colors, it can actually help you anticipate what's going to happen during a fireworks display.
Oh, wow.
Which is really helpful when you're trying to time those perfect shots.
That's really cool. So it's like you can decode the fireworks before they even go off. Now, I love the artistic side of things, but this book also has the technical stuff too. There's a whole chapter on camera settings. And honestly, it can feel a little overwhelming at first glance. Where do you even begin with all those dials and buttons?
Well, the key is to remember that you're basically trying to capture a fleeting moment of really intense light against a dark background. So the book recommends starting with a low ISO, somewhere around 100 to 200, to minimize noise, which can be an issue when you're shooting in low light.
That makes sense. You don't want grainy photos or blurry photos.
Right. Then you're going to want to use a small aperture, like between f8 and f16, to get a deep depth of field. This makes sure that most of what you see is in focus.
Okay. So far, so good. What about shutter speed? That one always trips me up. There are so many options.
Oh, yeah. Shutter speed is super important here because it determines how long your camera's sensor is exposed to the light. And fireworks move really fast, so you'll want to use a slower shutter speed, usually between 1 and 10 seconds, to capture those beautiful light trails as the fireworks explode.
Ah, so that's how you get those cool streaks of light.
Yeah.
It's starting to make sense now. So the book also mentions something called bulb mode, which sounds interesting, but also a little intimidating.
Yeah, bulb mode is really neat. It basically gives you complete control over how long the exposure is. You hold down the shutter button for as long as you want, which is perfect for capturing the full bloom of a firework. It takes a little practice, but you can get some really spectacular pictures.
Wow, that sounds like you're practically painting with light.
So the book also stresses how important gear and preparation are, which seems like a good place to start. Before we even touch those camera settings, what are some must-haves for any aspiring firework photographer? Okay, well, first things first. A sturdy tripod is essential. Even a tiny movement during a long exposure can make the whole image blurry, so stability is key. You also want to make sure you have a fully charged camera, whether it's a DSLR or mirrorless, and bring extra batteries, just in case.
Yeah, you don't want to miss the grand finale.
Yeah.
Because your camera died.
Exactly. And of course, you'll need the right lenses. The book recommends both wide-angle and mid-range zoom lenses so you can capture those big, expansive views, but also zoom in on individual bursts.
Right, and don't forget comfortable clothes. You can pack a snack or two.
Yeah.
Fireworks shows can go on for a while. And you don't want to be distracted by being uncomfortable or hungry.
Very true. Comfort is key. You want to be able to focus on getting those amazing shots. Oh, and the book also recommends a remote shutter release. This helps you avoid any camera shake when you're pressing the button.
Okay, so let's say we've got all our gear, we're comfortable, camera's all set up. Do we just point it at the sky and hope for the best?
Not quite. That's where composition comes in. Remember, fireworks photography isn't just about capturing the explosions. It's about making a visually interesting image. The book actually has a whole section dedicated to composition techniques, with tons of great ideas.
Okay, I'm intrigued. We'll uncover all the secrets to making those stunning, frame-worthy firework photos.
So we talked about gear and settings, but let's get into composition. It's really the key to taking your firework pictures from just okay to great.
Yeah, composition. That's where the real artistry comes in, right?
Exactly. This book, How to Photograph Fireworks, it really stresses that you don't want to just point your camera at the sky and just click away.
Okay, so what should we be doing?
Well, think about using something called the rule of thirds. Have you heard of that?
Maybe. Remind me.
It's basically you imagine your camera frame divided into 9 equal sections, with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines.
Okay, picturing it.
And then you try to place your subject, which in this case is the fireworks, along those lines or at the points where they intersect.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's a simple guideline, but it really helps create more interesting and balanced photos.
So instead of the fireworks just being smack dab in the middle, you're putting them off to the side a little bit.
Right. It makes for a much more dynamic composition.
Gotcha.
The book also talks about using interesting foreground elements. Think about silhouettes of buildings or trees, maybe even people, with the fireworks going off behind them.
Oh, that's a great idea. It gives the picture more context.
Yeah, it adds a sense of scale and place.
And tells more of a story.
Exactly. If you're shooting near water, try to capture the reflection of the fireworks, too.
Oh, yeah. Those reflection shots always look amazing.
They do. It creates a beautiful symmetry. It adds a whole other layer.
Now, let's face it. Real-life fireworks shows aren't always perfect. There would be smoke. Sometimes there are bright lights that get in the way. Sometimes a firework goes off when you weren't expecting it. How do you deal with those things?
Well, a little creativity can go a long way.
Okay.
If there's a lot of smoke. Try using the dehaze tool in your editing software.
Dehaze?
It's like magic. It can really help clear up those smoky photos.
So you can still see the fireworks.
Exactly. And if there are things like streetlights or power lines that are distracting, you can try to reframe your shot.
Yep.
Or use the clone stamp tool to remove them in editing.
Okay, cool. What about those random bursts that happen when you're not ready?
Well, sometimes those unexpected moments can actually make for the best pictures.
True.
But if you're really going for a specific composition, just take lots of photos and choose your favorites later.
Got it. Experiment and embrace the chaos. Well, this is all great advice. But before we run off to photograph some New Year's Eve fireworks, let's talk about editing. I feel like that's where those raw pictures we take really start to shine. So we've covered a lot of ground, from the science of fireworks to the gear and settings, and all those creative composition tips. But now it's time for the fun part, editing. I think this is where those firework photos we take really transform into something special.
Yeah, it's like you're putting the finishing touches on a masterpiece. And the book has some really good advice on how to enhance your pictures and really make those colors pop.
Okay, I'm ready to get creative.
Yeah.
What are some of the key things we should be focusing on when we're editing these photos?
Well, one of the first things is to shoot in RAW format. If your camera has that option.
RAW format?
Yeah, RAW files. They capture a lot more data than regular JPEGs.
Okay.
This gives you more flexibility when you're editing.
More data means more to work with.
Exactly. You have more control over things like exposure, white balance, contrast, and of course, color.
Right. You want those colors
Yeah.
to be as vibrant as possible.
For sure. Start with the basics. Adjust the exposure so the fireworks are nice and bright, but not too blown out. Then play with the contrast a bit to create that drama between the light and dark.
It's all about balance.
It is.
And then
yeah,
we can't forget about color. I mean, that's what makes firework photos so eye-catching.
Absolutely. The book talks about using the vibrance and saturation sliders to really make those colors sing.
Okay.
You can even use the HSL panel. That stands for hue, saturation, and luminance to fine-tune individual colors.
Wow. It's like you're conducting an orchestra
Colors.
of colors. Now, the book also mentions some more advanced techniques.
Oh, yeah. Like
Compositing.
compositing.
You can combine multiple exposures to make one image
Yeah.
that has all these different firework bursts layered together.
That sounds really cool.
It is. It lets you capture the whole grand spectacle in a single shot.
It sounds like something you'd see in a professional photography magazine, but anyone can do it with a little practice. And the book walks you through it step by step.
This book really is packed with information. It's giving me so many ideas, not just for taking photos, but also for editing them and really showcasing them in the best way possible.
Speaking of showcasing, the book also has a section on that. Think about how you want to share these amazing photos. Social media, an online portfolio, maybe even print them out and frame them.
I love printing photos. There's something so special about having a physical copy that you can hold in your hands.
I agree. It makes it feel more real somehow.
So the book talks about different paper types, glossy without matte.
It does. And it even gets into the pros and cons of using a professional printing lab versus printing at home.
You know, I've always been a little intimidated by those professional printing labs, but the book makes it sound a lot less scary.
They can be a great option if you want really high quality print.
Yeah. Plus they have all those fancy printers. and different types of paper. They can even frame your photos for you. You know, this whole conversation has got me thinking about my favorite fireworks memory. It was a few years ago, New Year's Eve. The sky was so clear, and the fireworks are just exploding in all these different colors, golds, reds, blues, greens. It was magical. And in that moment, I knew I wanted to capture that feeling with my camera and this book, How to Photograph Fireworks. It's given me all the tools and inspiration to do just that.
That's great. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to improve their photography skills.
And remember, it's on sale right now for only 99 cents. That's less than a cup of coffee for a whole book. Full firework photography knowledge. So go grab a copy, charge your batteries, and get ready to capture some amazing New Year's Eve fireworks.
Happy shooting, everyone.
And here's to a new year full of dazzling fireworks and even more dazzling photos.